Welcome back, everyone. My name is Damien Oliver. Thank you for watching my channel. Today we are again going to be doing our Beat the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock series. And as you can see behind you, I still got my automated setup going. Put it through a test and it seems to run pretty well. The only problem is I'm now having problems finding places to keep all the ingots. But we can get to that later. Interesting time for the rain to start, but that's okay. From here, we are pretty much soundproof due to the fact that the jaded ladder counts as a full block, so no rain comes through here. If we actually went up higher, you guys are probably hearing it right about now. So there's that. But like I said, last time we went through this little setup here, which is basically thermal expansion machines. And that's helping us reduce a lot of our chore time, but I've still done some stuff behind the scenes, enough where I kind of had to go in through and make myself a list for what we're going to do for this episode. So first thing we're going to want to take care of is explaining this, the obsidian and the soul sand. It's pretty simple. We just made a minor adjustment to a lava generation machine up here. And that's basically stone comes into here, or at least it would if I had any stone left. Sorry about that. And then the lava gets pumped out into here, and because there's a little bit of water on top of here, it immediately hardens into a save, which I can then just take down here. There we go. And put into the rock crusher. Now this brings up something to point out while I was in between episodes. You notice how all these platforms are now floating, and you can just change their orientation with the branch. Yeah, turns out that if they're down on, I thought you took damage if you were on top of the rock crusher, and you do, quite a bit. Usually about 3 hits will kill you. But it turns out that if they're in the low configuration, even sitting on top of those does kill you. So you want to put on a high configuration so you don't take damage. Little safety tip. I didn't end up losing my pickaxe, so this is like pickaxe 3.0. You can see how it still has no experience or anything like that. I did lose my crescent hammer, which isn't too hard to remake. And I think I lost a bit of soul sand. Everything else besides that shouldn't have been too important. So hopefully we don't forget about anything else here. Now the other thing I wanted to go over was this right here. This is a barrel full of witch water. And like most barrels, they fill full of water. And barrels are surrounded by cobblestone changes it to mossy cobblestone. Well, if you take some mycelium, which is dirt, and some ancient spores, which you can get through sieving. There. You can get these through sieving sand. It's like 1% chance of getting it, so don't expect it right away, but after a couple of stacks you will usually get it. Just plant them on top of the dirt and you get mycelium. And like grass, mycelium tends to spread to nearby dirt, so you can have quite a lot of it if you want. But I just need one for the purposes of what I'm doing. And that's basically if you have mycelium within 1 block below or left, right, front, center, so on and so forth of a bucket of water or a barrel of water, then you can just add in sand and it will turn it into soul sand. Now this process is not exactly fast. As you can see, the water first has to transform into the witch water, which takes some time, about as long as it takes to sieve something. And I believe right now there is a visual glitch, which is why the barrel looks like it's currently empty. I want to say, yeah, there it is. Like I said, it's only a visual glitch. The witch water is not actually there. It's kind of the same visual glitch that my zombie is walking through walls right now. That just kind of happens, and you may have seen that it changed back to water there. That was just another piece of soul sand getting put in. So this is not a slow process by any means. It just takes a small amount of time. Now, why do we want to do this? Well, basically, if you take a look at the uses here, soul sand in itself is not used for much. You can use it for soil for some types of things in agricraft. But really what you want from soul sand is, or at least in what we want for soul sand, there we are, is what we're going to sieve it for. Now we got a 2% chance of guessed here is about a 5% chance to get nether wart, but we have a 100% chance and about another 30% chance to get pieces of nether quartz. So there's that. Also, you do have a couple other uses, as you saw over here. There is a recipe to get a nether star. This is the uncharged version. I believe there is a way to charge that up. I forget what it is, though. Oh, just a blood altar. So that's not so bad. Though, you know, 20,000 LP is not exactly something to sneeze at. But if you can automate your altar, that's not so bad. It looks like there is a... Oh no, that's peaceful mode only, so that won't work. And I think that's it. The rest of it is just colored soul sand. So really we just want it for the quartz and maybe for the chance of getting another star later. Right, my list. So we've gone through obsidian, we've gone through soul sand. Now I want to go with the sawmill and the induction smelter. Both of these recipes are pretty simple, and I should have all the ingredients down here now. This was going to be a project that I realized I didn't have all the stuff necessary for, so, oops. The sawmill, actually I believe there's two different sawmills. No, I guess not. I thought there was one from forestry too, or maybe Mine Factory Reloaded. But the one we want is from thermal expansion. You just need some wood, a machine frame, and reception coils. I seem to have forgotten the wood, but that's not a big deal. So wood, the axe, the machine frame, some copper gears, and the redstone reception coil, which again is the one that is gold. And you get the sawmill. The sawmill is good for two purposes, really. First of all, you can pump it in from the top, and I think you can export from either side if you want. I don't think we're going to do that for now. That might get adjusted later. But basically, if you take one log and put it in a crafting grid, you get 2 planks. This way, you get 3 times the amount. It's kind of like the extractor over there. Just like you get 3 times the amount from resin. Plus you get the sawdust. The sawdust is in itself isn't very useful, but the compressed sawdust is what we'll be using to start making plastic and binder composites, which we will need later. Can also be turned into a piece of charcoal if you want. You may have just seen it, but there is still a small glitch where things inventories don't always update when they should. That's something you kind of see across servers. Don't worry about it. The other thing we want to worry about is the induction smelter. It's two different ones, the induction furnace and the induction smelter. I think they're both basically do the same thing. One's just from industrial craft and one is from thermal expansion. I prefer thermal expansion. And you just basically need another machine frame, another gold redstone reception coil, and a bunch of inbar for it, really. This is pretty much going to be taking care of our alloy smelting from this point on. And I'll just place it here for the time being. But basically, if well, I guess I need to have a couple of ores to show you this. But if I take some ferrous and some iron, just do 4 for now, and we need 8. There we go. And we just basically stick them in there, and it creates the alloy, just like we did it in the furnace. Now this cannot do gears or anything like that. I believe there may be a way that we can do that. I think there's even a way we could do that. Well, I don't think we'll have time for it this episode, but making the induction smelter does also give you access to another trophy, and I really need to set up a trophy room. In fact, I really kind of need to set up a house. But there we go. And you see my name, got the date there. And again, the trophies are all related to the Skyblock achievements, which I seem to have scrolled past. There we are. So that was this one, crafting an induction smelter. Yeah, there are a couple other ones. This is the more magical ones. These are the more tech-oriented ones. And these are the ones that require the really, really endgame items. So, we got that. See what I meant by keeping track of the list here? But using the sawmill is really going to help my wood needs for the future. I'm not sure how many of you people have seen other Infinity Evolved maps, but the need for a tree farm is pretty evident, and this really helps cut it down. Though, to be fair, some of my trees are doing pretty dang good right now. So the next item was magical fertilizer. And magical fertilizer is pretty easy to get, all things considered. You just basically need red and yellow dyes. And I've been breeding some stuff in agriculture, or in agricraft, excuse me. So that's not too hard to get, actually. I mean, all these are 10-10-10s now. Well, these two are 10-9-9s, but I can guarantee the rest are 10-10-10s. And all of these are 10-10-10s. Again, they're not hard to get. You just need seeds, which are crossbred from melons and sugar canes. And I believe the poppies were pumpkins and sugar canes. Yeah, poppies is the word I was looking for. Okay, yeah, pumpkins and sugar canes. So there's that. I've also did a little bit of other breeding on the side. And this here are the beans, which require quite a lot of going through different things, mainly sugarcane and wheat got me barley. Then I developed barley, and I think it was wheat, and that got me rye. Yeah, barley and rye got me seeds, or got me barley and wheat got me rye, and rye and sugarcane got me beans. Now, rye and barley both seem to be substitutes for wheat. I may have mentioned this on the last episode, but barley basically has 2 unique recipes that can only be made with barley. Rye does not. In all other cases, they're basically a substitute for wheat, except for the fact that we can't make dirt out of them. So they're less than useful. I was mainly using them just to, you know, get to other things. The beans are a bit more useful. I mean, they're not necessary by any means, but they do open up a lot more recipes, so that is something. They are also a step I mean, I guess you can use them for biofuel too. But the beans themselves, again, helps if I can spell. There we are. Or maybe not. There. The bean seed, oh, that's why I had the S there, can be used to get coffee, which I believe gives you a speed boost, mustard, okra, and more importantly, soybean. The soybean is useful for a meat substitute, basically. Once you work with soybeans a little bit, you can change them into whatever sort of meat you want. We also are working with rice for the same reason, basically. Now, something to note about the rice is they require them to be in this water pad. A water pad is not hard to make. You just basically take a piece of dirt and you hoe it once, it turns into farmland. Hoe it a second time, it turns into a water pad. And in order to grow anything on it, though, or more importantly, to put any sticks or crops on it, you need to fill it full of water, which takes a full bucket each. So, 4x4, that's 16 buckets right there. On the bright side, they don't disappear, but that's besides the point. Now, magical fertilizer. To get magical fertilizer, first we're going to need red dye and some yellow dye, which I already have over here in the chest. At least I should. Yes, I do. And then we just take a bit of fertilizer, and I believe it requires 2 of each for this recipe. There it is. No, that's regular fertilizer. There we go. Floral fertilizer. That's the word I was looking for. Now, there's 2 ways of getting it. One is bone meal with 2 yellows or 2 reds, which is what we're going to use. Later on, you can also use floral powders, which come from the Botania flowers, which is what you use floral fertilizer to get. But those ones can be of any color and combination if you want. So we'll just use this one, and there we go. Now, in order to actually use the fertilizer, you do need a space of land that is covered in grass. And grass, again, is something that you can sieve. Let's see here, there you are. Grass seeds are just something you sieve from dirt. There's about maybe about a 1 in 12 chance there of getting it. Actually closer to like 1 in 14, but that's besides the point. And you just right click with the fertilizer and you get plants. I suppose if you didn't want to do the agricraft version of getting all the red and yellow flowers, you could also use bone meal on some dirt and grass to get the poppies and stuff too, but this is renewable. Ideally, we are probably going to be going to agricraft and creating fields of our own plants, so we don't need to use floral fertilizer, but we'll get to that in a bit. Why don't I use up the rest of my floral fertilizer and I'll get back to you guys. Okay, guys, welcome back. Finished off my floral fertilizer there, and that kind of gets us started on the next thing we want to go over. We've done on magical fertilizer. Now it's time to get started on Botania. Botania is the entry-level mod for any tech mod, or sorry, any magic mod. Kind of the same way like the assembly table is the way to get into any tech mods through the basic components. The same thing applies to it with Botania. And to get started on Botania, we are going to need a few things. Well, I guess we don't need them, but it does help. So first what we're going to need is a piece of string, which will hopefully drop here shortly. go. Remember, a piece of string, a couple of blank patterns, and 3 pieces of paper will get you a book. Now what we need from there is just a sapling, and technically the recipe calls for 2 nuggets of gold, but anything that or dictionaries with or nuggets will work. So gold coins, also gold berries will all work. And that gets us the lexicon Botanica. As it does say right there in the tooltip, this is not 100% accurate anymore. The lexicon Botanica used to be the guide for Botania, but with FTB Infinity Evolved, all the magic mods kind of got crammed together, just like all the tech mods did. So we can still get some information on it here, including the basics of the lexicon. But it also explains to us the basics of the different items in the game, as well as how some of the flowers work. Like the broken capillae, I believe, is a new one. Basically, this one basically takes any broken ore, gravel, crushed ores, whatever, and then when we put them inside what they call the runic altar, it will basically combine them for you. It's actually a pretty nice recipe, but I'm not sure whether or not it needs to be all of the same type, or if it just takes a whole bunch of things and compresses down as necessary. We'll see later, but it does kind of show you a nice graphic of how the things work all around the pedal apothecary, which is the next thing we need to work on. If you shift click on something, by the way, it will usually take you to the recipe. And this recipe is no longer correct. This is one of those things where NEI is going to be your friend more often than not. And unfortunately, it's also going to be the bringer of bad news, because some of these recipes got a lot more complicated. So we'll take a look here, and the pedal apothecary now requires 3 compressed stone, or double compressed stone, so that's 81 cobblestone each. If you have a cobble generator like mine, that's not much. That's like about 4 stacks of cobblestone, I think. It also requires a cauldron, and like the bucket, the cauldron is made a little bit more difficult, but it's basically the same thing as a bucket, just as it was in Minecraft. So we need to get all those things together, which I have done so in this conveniently placed Botania chest. I'm not sure whether or not it's going to stay there or not, but it'll do for now. Okay. So what we need now, and in order to get started, luckily this recipe hasn't changed. We need the pedal apothecary. We need a bucket of water. My bucket seems to have disappeared. That's annoying. Let's see if a jar of water will work. Sorry about all the sirens, guys. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But yeah. Will a bottle work? No, it will not. That's annoying. Okay, so what I'm going to need then is basically some seeds. Now I'm going to have to be careful. I'm actually running low on seeds. The wheat seeds are one of the primary ingredients in just about all the Botania recipes. So there's that. Also need some iron. Sorry about that, guys. This is actually a good tie-in to something else I forgot to bring up earlier. I figured out why my energy cubes were acting up in the last episode. If you remember right, I had my lasers going, and they drained a whole lot of energy out of this cube, but not this cube. I couldn't figure out why. Well, I looked it up and I found out. Right now, these cables are capable of transferring about 1,000 RF per tick. That is actually quite a bit of energy for everything considered. In fact, as far as thermal expansion machines goes, that's more than most of them will ever need. We just really need that money because of the lasers and a couple of things like the rock crusher and stuff like that. However, these energy cells, what I didn't realize at the time, well, rather, I placed these wires figuring both energy cells would discharge into them at the same time and shared workload, which technically they do. But what I didn't realize at the time was these energy cells, once I upgraded them, can now output 800 RF per tick, which is about 4 times what they were when they were leadstone generators, or energy cells. So in reality, the reason this one drained so much faster than the other one is because it was putting out 800 RF per tick, and that took up about 4/5 of what the wire could handle. So this was giving off 4 times the amount of energy, while that one was only giving off 200 RF per tick. Technically, what does this mean in the long run? Not really much. It would be nice if they kind of shared the workload, because that would be more energy efficient, really. Or at least energy to dynamo efficient. But in the end, all the RF gets spent the same in one way or the other, so it doesn't really matter. It just would be more. It would be nicer in terms of charging time, basically. By now, my bucket should have finished, more or less. Something else that's been brought to my attention, speaking of the bucket, I have primarily been using this water tank to provide my water. Ooh, now this is a bigger problem than I thought it was, a lot faster than I thought it was going to be too. Like I said, I've been primarily using the water tank as my primary means of gathering water. So with my water tank being empty, not a big surprise. But I think it was all the soul standing I just created that really drained my water tank really fast. Yeah, I didn't even have time to finish. So my drum, which I had kind of used as my actual quote-unquote tank, is now empty. And while normally the rain would be enough to sustain my water tank and everything, it's been brought to my attention that several people on the server are using solar power, which makes a lot of sense in the long run. And that while it rains, to stop people from gathering solar power, and in essence, my water challenge here is kind of hurting other people's energy, and vice versa, because when they sleep and get through a storm, it cuts off my water. So I am going to have to create an infinite water tank, I'm afraid, or an infinite water source, which is not the end of the world. Just, something I kind of hope to avoid, but oh well. Back to Botania. With Botania, the rest of the process is pretty simple. We just take a couple of white petals, you chuck them in there one by one. You can kind of see them floating in there. And then when you get to the screen where it has a little check mark there, that means all you have to do is chuck in a seed, and you get the end result of it. Now, something to keep in mind, it didn't happen here because I don't have another bucket of water. But if I had used a like some sort of water filling system to fill this back up right away, and I had the materials back in my inventory to create something else, one of the new features of Botania is I could basically right-click and create the same item I just made, which is more of a time saver than anything else, because Botania's recipes are a bit difficult to automate. But next step here, actually I got a couple steps that need to be done. Let me go place down the pure daisy. And the pure daisy is necessary to get some of the building blocks of Botania started. They're quite literally the building blocks. You basically place it down, then you place down wood, and we're going to leave that sit for about 2 minutes, give or take. Assuming, Infinity Evolved hasn't made that longer. By the way, that is an apple tree. It's just an apple plus a sapling. Really useful for getting apples. It's not particularly fast. It kind of depends on how many apples you get, which is random. But it is something you can do. The other nice thing about the redstone furnace, by the way, is I can chuck whatever I want in here and not have to worry about fuel, because everything is powered by that water mill. But I just need to get about 8 stone here. I think I'll just grab all 9 because, they're there. But we're going to use that as part of the next building material. Actually, why don't I just grab the full stack here? Because I have a feeling we're probably going to need more of these. Correction, it's not really a feeling, it's going to happen, really. Okay, and as you can see, our wood logs over there have been changed over to living wood. Okay. The other thing you can use it for is you can use stone. And about 2 minutes, that's going to change into, oops, sorry, wrong button. I forgot to mention that if you hit shift and right click on something, if it's in the Lexica Botanica, it will go to that page. If it's not in Lexica Botanica, it will try to go to the nearest thing that it can. In this case, it will use the Minecraft wiki, and we'll open that up into your browser, which is why I had to pause the game there for a second, because that popped up in front of my screen. But we're going to use this to get some living stone here. Yes, living stone. I don't know exactly how that actually works, but I'm not going to complain about it too much. Minor graphical update problem. It's just another problem with this playing on servers. There we go. There's one. So we got ourselves living wood and living rock. And I think we're probably going to call it there for now, guys. Because, like I said, those are the building blocks, the getting started with Botania. Something I should point out, though, like I said before, many times when you get a guide, you should generally follow the guide. And as you can see here, the Botania is the first way of getting into any magic mod here on the Infinity Evolved. But the guide here is slightly outdated. To my knowledge, there is no longer diluted mana pools, which are these recipes here. They automatically become mana pools now. On the same note, you'll sometimes see these ones here, which are the mana infused petals. Those petals also no longer work. So this one here is the Endo Flame, and if I look up the Endo Flame, every time you click on a flower in a Botania, for some reason you get this blood magic recipe. I don't know why, but just hit to the right, and this here is the Endo Flame. We no longer have mana petals. Now we have mana powder, which is basically any sort of powder inside of a mana pool full of mana. I generally prefer sugar or gunpowder, but the floral powders also work, and so does glowstone, redstone, any sort of dust really. The only difference is I think some of them require more mana than others. But since Botania doesn't really give you numbers, and all of these have such a minuscule amount of mana, it's really hard to tell if that is in fact the case or not. So yeah, just use whatever you have the most of. Since I no longer have a need for TNT at the moment, I'll probably be using gunpowder or sugar, since I can grow that pretty easily. But that's going to be the very starts of Botania. Next time, I think we'll get a little bit more into Botania, and there are maybe 1 or 2 machine blocks I want to take a look at before we can completely remove the smeltery, which, don't get me wrong, the smeltery is doing great where it is, but it is, taking up about a 5x5 space that we could use elsewhere. So, that's that. Again, my name is Damien Oliver. Thank you for watching my videos. I do appreciate any hints, tips, or ideas in the comments. You can also send them to me via message on YouTube and Twitch. I try to check both of those fairly regularly. But if you do like my channel, feel free to hit a like or subscribe. Otherwise, I'll be here next time. Have a good one.